Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 p.m., and I'd like to call to order the Merrimack Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, October 1st. All right. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. So, as the usual reminder, can I have everyone please make sure the microphones are turned on when they come up to the front. Please clearly state your name. And let's see, next planning board meeting is October 15th at 6:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton Room right here. Let's see. Pledge of Allegiance. Oh. Sorry. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Consent agenda. Robert, is there anything that we need to know for the consent agenda?
Before you do that,
Oh.
is this, I don't know if this is working or not, it was unplugged.
Yes, sir.
Before you do that, you just have to seat Nelson in place of.
I forgot, you're not a full-time member.
I'm an
Nelson,
alternate. I'm an alternate.
if you'd be so kind.
I was dragged out.
I know, out of your sick bed, and thank you for it. I do, I appreciate it. Bob owes you. I'm gonna place,
Remind him next time.
I will remind him happily, place Nelson in place for Bob as an alternate. All right. Now I can ask you about the consent agenda, sir?
Just regional impact determinations, so if it's up to the board, they can motion to approve. They can just motion to approve the consent agenda, that's all that's
Okay.
necessary.
All right.
Could
Sir,
I
Mark?
ask, I haven't seen the agenda, but does it include this project we're looking at tonight?
No, this is an old project. It includes the warehouse project, 769 Daniel Webster.
That's what I meant.
Yes, so it's got that one, yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to be sure.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Is there a
That one is original.
motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All right, motion made by Nelson, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? All those abstaining? It is 4-0-0. Motion moves. Next item, let's see, Merrimack Parcel A. All right, LLC. CEO Thomas Monahan requests for approval for an amended site plan for mixed-use development in accordance with the Merrimack Park Place mixed-use conditional use permit. The proposal calls for a 100-room hotel, an approximately 19,500 square foot, 2-story mixed-use building containing restaurant, commercial, and office space, and a 178 multifamily residential unit building. The parcels are located at 1, 2, and 4. My apologies. Lexington Court in the I-2 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation Districts and Wellhead Protection Area, Tax Map 3C, lots 191-2U2, -191-2U4, Case Planning Board 2004-10. This item is continued from May 7th, June 4th, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd, 2024 meetings.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name for the record is Gordon Leedy, and I am with Ty and Bond for the applicant. With me this evening. Can you pull the mic closer to you? Yep. With me this evening is that better? Okay. Okay. You're getting the high sign. With me this evening is Aubrey Bennett, an architect with Market Square Architects in Portsmouth, and they have been responsible for creating the architectural plans for this development. Yay. Okay, so I apologize for the delay in getting back to you, but we've been busy dealing with various issues that have come up, including close work with the fire department, which has been successfully concluded, and work with the DPW with regard to sewer. We still have some issues with the sewer system. We had a meeting just recently, a very productive meeting just recently, where we have the framework of a plan to solve that solution as well. So, but we're not quite at the finish line on that issue. But I'd like to go through where we are and what we've been doing for the last 4 months so that the board has an understanding of how we've addressed the comments that we've heard. Based on our previous discussions, we have made a few changes to the plan. There were buffer enhancements on the northerly side. I think we had a site walk back in May perhaps, and discussed those. We've also added a school bus stop on Continental Boulevard in coordination with the school department. I had an on-site meeting with the transportation coordinator, and we agreed on a place for that to occur. We also have made fire protection system enhancements. As I mentioned, we had a lot of dialogue with the fire marshal and the fire department with regard to both access to the building and the fire protection system that currently serves both the Premium Outlets project and this site. So we're proposing some modifications to that. There was some discussion at the last meeting about accessible parking spot locations and number, which we have addressed in the plans. And we've also made some architectural refinements, and Aubrey's here with some materials samples that to show the board what the building is going to be made of. So with that, just to refresh your memory, this is the approved site plan. We had the Slate building, which is currently up and occupied. We also had approved a hotel, which in this application has not been modified in any significant way. And then there was a 7,500 square foot restaurant, which we have replaced with a different sort of building, along with development in the so-called parcel 2 area, which is where we're proposing to construct 178 apartments. So this is the revised overall site plan showing that approved phase 1 in the lighter brown, and then in the darker brown are the newly proposed buildings. So this is really the phase 2 area that we're talking about. It includes the roundabout, which was subject of a separate approval some years ago, and is included in the phasing of this project. So this is a blow up of the. Let me go back. Just so you know, here is the location of the bus stop. It's a pullout off the shoulder of Continental Boulevard. So it would, there's already an 8 to 10 foot shoulder out there, and this would provide an additional pull-off area beyond that 8 to 10 feet where a school bus could pull off of the road and discharge or pick up kids in a safe manner. And that's integrated with the walkway system that we had previously proposed in phase 1 and are continuing to propose in this iteration of the plan. And then this is the buffer area that we're talking about. So the buffer enhancements that we're proposing include taking out, there's a lot of kind of, I would call them weed trees or, volunteer vegetation that is small and not very high quality. And interestingly, there was a berm that was constructed as a part of, way back when we first started talking about this property. What we're proposing now is to clear out the kind of volunteer. We located all the trees. We did topo in that area, all the large trees, and we are saving the large trees that are that are immediately adjacent to that berm area. And then also extending the berm, increasing its height by between 2 and 4 feet, all the way almost to the Camp Sargent Road intersection. So with the emergency drive, that gate is right about in this location. So we're taking the berm almost all the way down to the gate, and we are proposing to plant 10 to 12 foot evergreens in a staggered row on top of that berm. So, and that's in addition to the, we're not taking out any of the buffer area per se. We're right on the edge of that required buffer. So I think it'll be a big improvement over what's out there today, and these are all vigorous growing evergreens that should attain a height of between say 25 to 40 feet at reasonable maturity. So that's the buffer. We also have sort of moved around some of the vegetation to accommodate both fire access and to better reflect the location of things like lighting and so forth. So, and then the other fairly significant change is that we've added some detail to this courtyard area where we're proposing a central gathering space with a pergola and landscaping to use for barbecues and gatherings, along with turf areas outside of that that will be available for people to throw a ball around or otherwise recreate, I suppose. And then, just to refresh your memory, there's also an area here that we're proposing a dog park. So an area for people to take their dogs. It's unclear whether, pets will be allowed, but I mean, I think it's only sensible to make some accommodation to people. So that is that. In terms of fire protection, the fire department had two concerns. One was fire truck access to this inner courtyard. And what we're proposing is to do a hardened surface, some of which will be concrete walkway that will be suitable for fire truck access. And then where we proposed grass before, we are proposing to do turf. So you would have an artificial turf surface. They're getting really good with, the way that looks. It looks a lot more like grass every day, but it also allows us to put a base under it that would be acceptable for fire truck access, and also importantly, is much easier to maintain in the snow. Because you don't have plows digging up turf. So it's something that, it's a solution that is, I would say, often used in more urban locations. Like there's a lot of turf down in Boston in amenity decks and so forth, and it's a good low maintenance water conscious kind of solution. The other item that we discussed with the fire department was the existing fire protection loop system that's fed by there's a fire tank up sort of halfway up the hill along with a fire pump. And apparently they've had some issues with that fire pump. There was a pump failure that happened, and It took a while to get a replacement pump, which is not acceptable from a life safety standpoint. So the fire department was, I would say, adamant would be the correct term, that we separate this development from the fire protection loop and install our own system. So we already have a lot of pipe in the ground, which is a good thing because we can connect to that pipe, and we are proposing to put in a cistern, a large underground tank that will supply the sprinkler demand from any of these buildings, and then connect the hydrants to the domestic water system as it is pretty much everywhere else in town. It's not unusual to see, most of the hydrants in town are off of MVD's water pipes. So it's a solution that keeps us under the agreed to maximum flow that was negotiated, 20 years ago now, or 15 years anyway, of 1,500 gallons a minute, and provides 24-hour protection to these residential properties, which was really their concern. So that's been signed off by Jason over at the fire department, the fire marshal, and we think we have a solution to that problem.
I'm sorry, before you move on from that one, if I may.
Yep.
So the hydrants are on its own separate loop?
The hydrants are on
independent of the
yes,
outlet?
yes.
And then in addition to that, you have a cistern that,
That will supply sprinklers to the buildings.
okay, gotcha,
Okay.
thank you.
And that's all been designed by a fire protection engineer, so, I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of all of that, but, they've done the calculations, and it appears to be acceptable by the fire department. In terms of site lighting, there are some artifacts of the Phase 1 development that, in discussion with community development, we believe we need a waiver for, and that would be for light spill over the property line on Industrial Drive in this location and on Continental Boulevard in this location. The light fixtures are in today, and, we will propose putting house shields on them if that's something you want to see, but basically we're lighting up a road. There's a minor spill across the property line into the other properties. A similar situation happens along Premium Outlets Boulevard in this short section here that would create some minor light spill. The areas in blue in this diagram are areas where our calculations show zero light trespass. So on the entire northern side of the site against the Sergeant Acres development, along with the corner down in the southwest portion of the site at the intersection of Continental and Industrial, we're showing zero light trespass. So you should expect a waiver for that issue as recommended by the Community Development Department.
On the north side of the lot where there's no light pollution, is that after all of the trees on the berm have matured, or is that at day one?
No, that's at day one.
Okay.
We're not proposing any lighting back there. Okay, so now we're on to architecture.
So, see if I can move this a little closer. So this is a floor plan of the mixed-use building that is about 22,800 square feet. We didn't have a lot of changes that came out of the last time we were here. So I'll just quickly go over this building for the board this evening. At level 1, we have, it's a mixed-use building, so we have commercial space at the front, at the north side here, a cafe and restaurant with outdoor patio seating. And then at the second floor, we have a full office space.
You just, yeah,
No?
this-
Okay. The facade is primarily cementitious siding with what we're proposing, a wood banding along the sides. And then at the restaurant end, which is this end here that's grayed out, one-story brick facade. And on the commercial end, more so storefront and cementitious siding.
yeah, that's the restaurant.
Yeah, oh, there we go, yep. So look and feel is fairly modern, but at the two-story level, there's still some detail that represent more of a residential feel. The lighting, as Gordon had just mentioned, is downlights for that dark sky application. And that's the rendering we provided at the last meeting. There's several entrances into this mixed-use building, just because of the different amenity spaces happening, the restaurant, potential cafe, and commercial. And then on the other side is an entrance for the office building. And then the multifamily building is a 3- and 4-story over garage, what we would call podium-style construction. The garage level is concrete and steel, and then the levels above are wood construction. This is a 279,000 square foot building. It has 178 units, and at this level, this is the garage level that we're looking at, and there's approximately 124 parking spaces. And as Gordon mentioned earlier, one of the items that was noted at our last meeting was accessible parking space availability. So we've added a couple spaces at this elevator entrance, stair 4 and elevator 3, and then 3 more spaces down here at the elevator 1 and 2 banking and the amenity space entrance. The parking garage, or sorry, the parking level has an entrance at this location. And this, for reference, this was around where that cistern, fire protection underground cistern is. And then over here is another entrance, and screen south is the rest of the development that's currently there. One of the other items mentioned at our last meeting here was bike storage and its capacity. So we reviewed the square footage, and based on a 2-tier bike storage system, which a 2-tier system can provide space for 4 bikes, we have up to 72 bike storage capacity in this location.
72?
Mm-hmm. It's a 2-tier, has 4 bikes, 2 top, 2 bottom, yeah. Yeah, it's quite a bit. It was more than I
Can you
thought.
get one out from inside there, or is that
The,
winter
you'd have
storage?
to bring it down, yeah, and it cycles, but yeah, it's a fair amount. We also have, within the building at the 4th level, you'll see there's another location that we can have bike storage if they want to spread out a little more as opposed to packing it all in. But yeah, there's some room for some bike storage in this building.
But the idea there is just for wintertime storage or something like that, not year-round storage.
I mean, I think people would want to put their bikes there when they're not in use in general.
Yeah, but getting it out of there would be a pain, I would think.
We have a plan here at this location, at this part of the plan that identifies the bays where those bikes would be stored, and then you would take them out. And yeah, I can't imagine someone would use it every day like that. They'd probably bring it up to their unit, but yeah.
Or if you have like an incredibly expensive bike that you don't want stored in a public location, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, but there aren't any public locations necessarily around here that they could store it, right? I mean, they don't have any bike racks or something they could put them in so that they could get them in and out easily or instantly or anything like that, right? I mean, they either have to bring it into their unit, which the units aren't that big, or they slot them into that storage space,
Right,
sounds like.
right.
Also at this level, we have up to, it's about 5,000 square foot commercial space and then an amenity space. And at our last meeting, the board asked what this amenity space might look like. We presented a shell. A lot of times this portion, this design process is done later when more program is provided. And so we kind of gave an idea based on our experience what might be in this amenity space. Usually we see a couple leasing offices with support space. Gordon mentioned dog park, so we could have a pet spa here to wash the animals. There we have mail and package room, and then outbound of that, it's a flavor of what might be offered. Seating pods, maybe a cafe, TV lounge area, multi-purpose studio for fitness, and then a fitness room, complete with bikes and treadmills and so forth. And then at the fourth level, we have what we would call a clubhouse space, which is a room with a rooftop deck. And usually we see this large supersized TVs. Sometimes this room will get rented for birthday parties and small gatherings that otherwise can't be fit in the units.
What's the intent of the commercial space down there on the last plan?
The intent is for it to be a store of some sort. I mean, I don't believe we have any tenant lined up. There is interest, by the way, in the restaurant spaces, but this is not going to be a restaurant. It's going to be some kind of dry good retail. So maybe a convenience store, or I don't know. We don't know yet.
There's nothing like that in the other building, right? So if it was a convenience store or something, it would be serving the entire
Yeah,
area.
that's the intention. Yes.
Can you, before you go any further, what's the relative size of this,
Parking garage?
the play area that you've got there?
The amenity space?
The amenity space compared to like the clubhouse on the other unit?
So it's about 6,000 square feet at the garage, and at the upper level, it's 900 square feet.
And the clubhouse is 7,000 square feet.
Okay. And there's also a pool or something over there as well? More outdoor space?
There is a
or-
pool out there, yeah.
Okay, but the two don't mix, is that correct?
No, not at this time. I mean, it's separate ownership and will likely be operated separately.
Is this 6,000 square feet, is that sized for 178 units, or is that?
Yes, yeah.
The idea is that you only get 20 people or 40 people that might want to be there, not
Well,
100.
right, yeah, we wouldn't expect the whole building complex to be here at one time. Usually rule of thumb, when we design these spaces, is 30 to 35 square feet per unit goes into the amenity.
Including the leasing offices and
Mhm.
stuff like that?
Yep.
Are we open for question?
Not yet. She's not finished yet.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll speed things up. At levels 1, 2, and 3, it's pretty much your standard multifamily. We have a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. We have that storage space I was talking about earlier. This is more resident storage, but then at the 4th floor, the roof, we have the step down here where we have 3/1 on the north side of the building, and then the building pretty much splits into 2 separate buildings. And this is that area where I was saying that it could be a potential, well, it doesn't have to be there, but there's enough storage for additional bikes if needed.
That's the same as the residential storage you have in the lower levels.
Mhm.
And then we have our building section, and then moving to the elevations. The elevations are similar to the mixed use. It's a mix of cementitious siding and a wood cladding. What we're looking at here is the north section, and one of the comments at the last meeting was the size of the Juliet balconies. I should go back. The units have a mix of Juliet balconies versus regular balconies. The Juliets are a sliding glass door with a rail in front of it. So at this north elevation, the comment at the last meeting was the Juliets were big. So we reduced the size from a 6-foot wide slider to a 5-foot wide slider, which is a reduction of 7 square feet. And then another item was the coloration of the building. There was a concern about how bright the building might be, so I brought samples to show the board that this is the intended colors. Blues, grays, and a wood look. And then the rendering of the building. I
think that's it.
Yeah.
So there was, forgive me, but I'm gonna have to go back a little bit. Because I forgot to talk about the handicap spaces. And what we did was we relocated, previously they were all kind of ganged up in this area. And what we did was split them up according to where the entrances were. So, we have a couple adjacent to the building entry here. We have a couple adjacent to the building entrance here. We have them spread out through adjacent to the building entries and the multi-use. We actually have a little bit in excess of what would normally be required, just because we also added 3 spaces or 2 spaces, 5 spaces in the garage. So I think this is actually a much better solution than what we had before. So that really is, I think, it. So if you have any questions, I'd certainly be, or Aubrey and I would
Thank
certainly
you.
be willing to answer
you very
anything,
much
any
for
questions you have.
For the explanation. Board questions, comments?
I have
Rob,
questions.
Nelson,
I've got a bunch of questions. I
fire away.
was holding them back while you were going through. Just most recently, you were talking about the siding. And what is the siding? I didn't get the word that you used.
It's a cementitious siding.
Say again, please.
Cementitious,
Cementitious.
hardy siding.
Yeah, what's it? Is it plastic, basically?
No.
it's concrete cement.
Cement.
Oh. Okay. That gets, what kind of maintenance is needed on that? That's mostly, you just power wash it now and then, or what?
Basically, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
like vinyl where it's vinyl is final.
Yeah,
They're
Yeah.
regular maintenance, but it's a standard siding material for multifamilies.
okay, I wasn't familiar with it, so that's why I had to ask. We talked about the cistern, and I didn't get where that was located on,
It's up in this corner up here. So it's basically, round numbers, it's like a 10 by 12 by 50 foot concrete tank.
Below ground,
below ground.
below ground. And what's on the surface?
Grass.
Grass.
Grass, okay, all right, so,
So, and then there would be a pump, we haven't designed it yet. There may be a small addition to the side of the building that houses the pumps. Or they could be in a vault. Like I said, we haven't designed that yet. So there would be, I believe they're gonna need to have 2 pumps that would be sort of duplicative pumps, fail-safe.
Mhm. And then it would be, this would power the sprinkler system only in the building,
Correct.
in this building,
In all 4 buildings.
all 4 buildings. I only see 2 there, but,
Well, the entire site is gonna come off of the existing fire protection loop. And
Okay.
we're in effect installing our own fire protection loop.
this would do the slate building as well. is
Correct,
what you're saying.
correct.
Okay, I didn't get that right away, yeah. I want to talk about the buffer, the landscape buffer between this and the adjacent property there on the east side. It looked like, you said evergreens, and evergreen is a pretty generic term.
Well, what we're proposing is a mixture of eastern red cedar and white spruce and,
Is that spelled out somewhere in?
yeah,
this plan?
it's in the plans.
Yeah.
There's a plant list. Forgive me, I'm gonna get out of this and go the
Balsam,
easy way.
Eastern red cedar, Coster blue spruce, Australian black pine.
What page are you
Austrian
on,
pine.
Tom?
I'm looking at this extra sheet that they handed out,
Okay.
part of the packet.
Extra sheet, what do we got here? This one, yes, I did see this at one time. I couldn't tell what those trees were from this plan. Can you,
Hang on just a second.
yeah. This plan doesn't show the property line, but
Well, the property line is off of that sheet, but here is the, maybe I should use a mouse.
I was most interested in that little cluster there. This is different. This is this, okay, that cluster.
So those are, I mean, starting from, you can't get. All right, so those are balsam firs, eastern red cedar, blue spruce, and Austrian pine. So these are balsam. The first group is balsam fir. The second group is eastern red cedar. The third group is white spruce, and then eastern red cedar and white spruce again. That's in this row. There are additional species and evergreens throughout the site.
Yeah, I wasn't so interested in the evergreens elsewhere. I was interested in the
So
screening capability.
the
and-
balsam firs, all of these trees are what we refer to as self-heading. So they don't get like, they don't perform like white pines do and turn into lollipops.
Yeah.
they keep their branches down to the ground. So that was an important consideration. If you want to know what I'm trying to think of where there may be spruces, but I think there's a good screen of spruces in Amherst by the farm on 101. That as you're coming into Amherst, there's that red barn on the left-hand side. And there's a whole row, it's a double row like we're proposing here, and they're probably, I don't know, 35, 40 feet tall. As long as Eversource hasn't like hacked them across, so.
These are gonna be 10 to 12 foot when you put them in?
When we put them in, yeah.
How long does it take to grow out to?
They grow
30 feet.
probably, they grow, depends on what time, what stage of life they're in, but they're fairly fast growing. I mean, I can't tell you, but their mature height is between, I'd say, eastern red cedar is probably 30 feet, and the spruces can be 60 feet tall, but generally you see them top out at about 40 feet. And these are all drought tolerant as well, importantly, because we're not proposing to do irrigation back there.
They're all what? I'm sorry. I didn't
Drought
hear you.
tolerant.
Huh?
Drought
Oh,
tolerant.
drought tolerant.
Drought
yeah.
tolerant, yeah.
Well, where is this site in Amherst that we should look at again?
As you're coming into Amherst from Bedford,
Yes,
on
on
You-
101.
101, you
Yeah.
come up the hill right after the Bedford line, and there's a red barn.
Yeah.
And then there's a double row of spruces.
Is it left or right side of the road?
It's on the left side,
Left side of the-
headed west.
I was looking for something more something that was solid and not looked through, and I had thought that probably the Arbor Vitae or something like that. We have some screens in town that are really efficient in that matter.
Well, I mean, there are arborvitae out there that are not
That are
doing
not, yeah.
particularly well.
They're not,
So
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of arborvitae, to be honest with you, Nelson.
Well, you gotta look at where they are, where they've been
I
successful.
understand that, and
Yeah.
these are wider trees than the arborvitaes are,
Uh-huh.
and they have similar growth characteristics. I mean, the green arborvitae, the largest one probably gets 30 feet tall.
Yeah. Well-
But they're not wide, they're quite narrow.
Well, they have to be close enough together so that they actually screen, and you're not looking between them, I guess. This makes it look like it's a pretty solid line there.
These are planted at about 18 feet apart.
18 feet.
18
apart.
feet apart, depending on the species. The eastern red cedars are planted more like 12 feet apart.
Okay, that answers my question, basically, yeah. Let me see what else I had. Oh, yeah, you told us about the bus stop, and that's actually on Continental Boulevard,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
bus
the
stop.
issue there was that the bus company will not enter a private site.
Been there, right?
So they aren't going to come up Premium Outlets Boulevard, nor are they going to enter our site. So, it limits our ability to, provide
Yeah.
that facility. And industrial would be a terrible place to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just my opinion.
I mean, from From the perspective of being between the buildings, that seems like a reasonable place.
Yeah.
Do you own that property there next to Continental?
That is part of the, it's part of the right-of-way. It's part of the,
Okay, it's
and,
not the town piece and,
well, there is a town piece there that is also kind of part of the right-of-way. I mean, this,
It was kind of a wedge of town property in there, as I remember.
yeah, and it's the old right-of-way of, or it was acquired by the town when Continental Boulevard was constructed. Old Camp Sargent Road.
yeah.
Old Camp Sargent Road used to come, so I
Through
think
there.
technically it's still road right-of-way, because it was Old Camp Sargent Road.
Probably. I
But
don't know if it's
I don't know,
still-
I'm not a surveyor, so
My understanding is it's a piece of town property that's on our books, is owned by the town. but-
that's correct. That's correct. And, you know, from a survey standpoint, let me see if I can. You know, that piece of land is like this triangle here. And it goes down to
Down to there, yeah.
down to nothing. And it's also, not for nothing, it's also the closest point at which we can access it from this site. So,
Understood, yep.
you know, it's reasonably flat in there because it was a road at one point. So, and it's at the same elevation as Continental Boulevard.
So is that pullout sufficient enough to not disturb traffic, or is traffic still
Yes.
gonna have to stop?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know what the law says, but I think right now they're flashing lights on Continental Boulevard. So I doubt that that's going to change because this is not divided at this point. So.
Well, and your pullout's not gonna get divided away from the street, is
No.
what you're saying. It's just gonna
No.
literally be a widening of that asphalt.
It's a widening of the shoulder, yes. And it's like an 8 to 10 foot widening of the shoulder, so you're actually gonna have 20 feet there. But nobody's gonna wanna have a median in there. I mean, we, technically speaking, I think that's still DOT's road, much to the chagrin of the town of Merrimack. Or actually, they wanted to give it to
Actually,
you. They wanted to give it to
Other way
you,
around.
and
They wanna
didn't.
give it to us.
Yeah, that's right, and they
Yeah.
didn't.
We don't particularly care for it. But I think that piece is still town property. I don't think that's, I think the DOT goes from industrial the other direction.
Oh, just down,
just
probably
to-
at this point.
Something like that, yeah. I don't think they maintain the rest of that, but I don't know. No.
But it
that's-
seemed like a pretty
we maintain
straightforward,
it.
pretty straightforward solution when we were walking around out there. It just seemed like that was the natural thing to do.
So I guess the question is, if there is town property there, have you cleared it with somebody at the town?
We haven't talked to anybody at the town, but if
That
you
would
want.
probably be a good idea, just,
It would be. I mean, the answer to that is that if you want a bus stop, that's kind of where it has to go. So, you know,
if
I
you
mean,
ask
we
my,
could-
if you ask my wife, kids ought to walk, but that's.
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I walk to school, but,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
so
kids-
did most of us.
Kids don't today.
Yeah.
Okay, guess I'm okay
I'm
with
sorry,
that.
go ahead.
Yeah, the other issue that comes up when the bus stops, they have the flashing red lights and all.
Correct.
Nobody stops the traffic on Continental Boulevard, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a
Just-
$500 fine.
Oh, yeah. Now, you're saying they stop on Continental already in other places?
I believe that they do, down further south. But don't quote me on that. I mean, I know they transit that area.
Yeah.
And I don't know I think they may pull off onto, I mean, we looked at,
Look to Camp
uh,
Sargent.
we looked at Camp Sargent, but I mean, what we don't want is, this is very close to the intersection. So, you know, it wouldn't be great to have a school bus pull here and then somebody come ripping off of Continental Boulevard, making a turn and like slam into the back of the school bus. I mean, it's that close.
Does that happen? I mean,
It could happen.
well, anything could happen.
Right, but I mean, it's not great to have something within 50 feet of an intersection. And in addition to that, you don't want any parents, God love them, to be driving up the emergency access road and sitting there waiting for Johnny to get dropped off from school.
So where are they gonna go at this other location?
Well, they're gonna be in the parking lot,
Maybe, yeah.
you know? They're not gonna be on our emergency access road. That's where
Don't you
that's
have
where
an
they're gonna
emergency
be.
access road along the backside there, or not?
Pardon me?
Do you have an emergency access along the backside there, or fire access, or?
Along the backside here?
No, along the left side of the building there.
Yes. I mean, we don't want them on that either.
Well, I know you don't. I mean, unless you've got a traffic cop out there, you're gonna get them out there.
So, so having the bus stop at this location actually is, I think, as I think you indicated, or, you know, having it between the two buildings is a logical location. Having it directly adjacent to the parking area is a reasonable, you know, there's good access to these buildings. So, in another location, you'd have a much longer walk to the bus stop, and we all know about walking.
If the bus company isn't willing to come onto the private property, then I think the location makes sense, even though it's on a busier road. And that's just a sidewalk just for the students to get out to the,
Well,
out
there's
to the
a,
actual bus,
th-
and then
there
there's a
is
waiting
a-
area on the sidewalk there.
there's a walkway that is proposed, yeah, that right now is a walkway simply for that, but, you know, the idea is that this emergency access would be a pedestrian way
Mhm.
that connects this, I wonder if I can do this. I can't. So there's a sidewalk along Premium Outlets Boulevard that comes along, and then it departs from Industrial Drive just after the intersection and kind of goes in the right of way along this location, and then meets up with the emergency access, and then comes out here and goes along Continental to discharge at Camp Sargent. There are no sidewalks that I'm aware of in Camp Sargent, along Camp Sargent.
And is the intent to have that walk kind of be a loop around the whole property just for
Yeah,
pedestrian walkway?
yeah.
Even though you're having a, you know, potential dedicated dog park, I imagine that that's going to be a popular
Well,
loop, and
Yeah,
maybe
yes.
some
I mean,
cleanup
actually,
stations for the dogs would be a
yeah, I mean,
wise idea.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Any bench or anything by the bus stop that you're proposing for them?
We're not proposing anything right this moment, but we certainly could do a bench. I'm not sure a
wouldn't want
shelter
to stand.
is necessary, but we could certainly do that. And, you know, for that matter, this would not only serve this, but in the event that transit ever happens, you know, it could be a transit stop as well. I don't know whether transit's ever
Dreaming.
going to happen. All right, am I
One could
dreaming,
You're
Tom?
dreaming, yes.
Couple of questions on the garage area, the parking
Okay.
area below. there's louvers throughout the whole thing. Is it intended to be an open-air garage, or do you have ventilation systems in it?
The intent is that it is open air, but it'll probably have a mechanical assist. We usually, when mechanical engineers come on board, we do the calculation, and typically we'll see a fan put in as well to help the airflow.
And is that typically out one end or the other, or is that up through the building and exhausting up
It
through
would be
the roof?
out one end or the other, yep.
How do they allow for the operable windows and doors of the residents above, and then having an exhaust fan below that could potentially go up?
That, I haven't had that be an issue, but, on previous projects, but I'm sure that would be taken into consideration.
Okay. And then if it's open air, is it a dry system for fire protection?
It would be some sort of dry system, yeah.
Okay. One more on the turf that you mentioned for fire
Yep.
access on the inside.
Yeah.
What is the substrate? What is that? Is it just a hard turf over concrete?
No,
What
it
is-
would be turf over, usually there's a sand bed, and then we'd have essentially a road bed underneath it, so in essence, the turf functions like a flexible pavement would, right? So you have a sand bedding layer, and then like 1 or 2 inches max, and then you'd have the turf over that, over a HS20 loading capable substrate.
The reason I ask is you mentioned that could be an area that's potential for recreation purposes, and I don't understand how that would work well to have a hard surface that is capable of supporting a fire truck, and then also be a recreation surface for kids to play.
Well, I mean, it admittedly is not as soft as a lawn would be, but it's not unforgiving, because you have the sand layer underneath it. So it's not immovable, but it's not, it's similar to, it's gonna wind up being similar to some of the athletic turf surfaces. I mean, basically. Those are, they're over gravel, it's not compacted gravel, but it's similar to that.
So somewhere between grass and
Concrete.
Pavement,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That's it for me.
I got one more. Back at the beginning, Gordon, you talked about there was still an issue with the sewerage for this building.
Yes.
You didn't say what the issue was. Is
Well,
there something you can talk about?
We have, we've been going around and around on both the capacity of the town's system in Continental Boulevard and the flows, the projected flows from this site. And I think we've landed in a place where we can agree to disagree on certain things, but come up with a solution that that satisfies everybody's concerns.
And the issue is the pipe sizes, or?
There's a 12-inch sewer line in Continental Boulevard, and it is 25 or 30 years old, and it has a certain capacity, and we're trying to arrive at an equitable solution to add, in essence, 30,000 gallons a day of flow to that system, because we have a permit for 69,000 gallons a day.
You have a permit?
Yes,
From the wastewater?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're talking about that delta between what the existing flow is, or what the existing permitted flow is, and what the new flow might be. So, as I said, we had a very productive meeting this last week, and we believe that we have the framework to get that issue resolved amicably and move forward with the project. But we need a little bit more time to deal with the details of that discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to know where the bottleneck was. Thank you.
Sorry, Nelson, didn't realize you weren't done.
What? Oh,
Huh?
What's next?
Robert.
If there are no more board questions, then you'd want to open it up to the public.
Understood.
I want to, I wasn't here for earlier meetings, and so I want to go back to the 4 versus 3-story portion of the building and understand what the intent is there. I know some abutters and people think that that 4-story facade on top of the parking garage is a huge building up close to their houses and stuff like that. And I'm guessing the intent of dropping it down to 3 stories on top of the garage, or 4 stories, is to try and alleviate that. But on the ends, on either side, obviously, that hasn't happened. And you really haven't done a whole lot there, in my opinion, to try and reduce that 5-floor facade. I mean, there's a chunk, 50% or maybe 60 or 70% of it is reduced in the middle there, but there's still those 2 end chunks. And I wonder if you think that's really solving the problem, or just trying to throw.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure that anything is going to solve.
I'm
that
not
problem.
either, but, anything would help.
But, what we presented at during the conditional use permit process was this plan, which was a depiction of what the previously approved conditional use permit had contemplated, which was a 7-story garage and a 4-story building, commercial building, in that location, against this, which is essentially what we're proposing now. And our goal was to try to lower the profile of that building on the northerly side to the extent practicable. And at the end of the day, we went from 208 units to 178 units, so that was a reduction as well.
Right, but and I'm just going to editorialize for a few minutes. You're talking about 400 units in this site, a small hotel and an even smaller office building. So you have 2 huge apartment buildings and 2 relatively smaller commercial use buildings, and something that when you originally came forward and looked for the CUP was completely different. And
I understand that.
it's frustrating for a lot of people that this thing has morphed in the way it has, and it's not going back as far as I can tell. So anything that helps to alleviate some of the massiveness of that is
And what I'm saying to
appreciated.
you is that I understand that, and we've done what we can.
Okay. That's, okay. That poor office building is dwarfed by this building, and all of that just puts a lot on this lot. Do you have any idea how many kids you might expect out of these apartments
I
that
think
would be
that the
going to school
I
to
think
catch
the
the bus?
number was, I don't recall what the number was, but it's not a large number. It was something on the order of 15,
15?
15. I think there are 3 school-age kids in the existing 224-unit building, but don't quote me on that. That's only something that sticks in my mind.
I mean, with 1 and 2 bedroom units, I wouldn't expect a ton, but we
Right.
always get surprised by what people fit into those spaces.
Yeah.
Or we have in the past. I mean, we've had a lot of times when the number of 0.5 kids per unit jumped up to 0.8 or something like that, and it just became a large number real quickly. Okay. That's a lot of building.
Go ahead, Nelson.
Okay, I have one more question. Gordon, you kind of skirted around the issue with the rotary, the roundabout.
Yep.
It's shown on this plan that is in front of us, that like it's completed, and it's not completed. Is that's going to be part of this?
It's part of this construction. I think what we agreed to was that that would be the next project that is completed, and it needs to be completed before any other CO is issued.
That was my recollection too. Yeah.
So that's our plan.
Okay, so it is keyed to this, even though it's different color. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
No, I thought I saw in some of the narrative that the hotel and the office building, you weren't sure which one was going up next, but this implies that the hotel's there already.
No, the hotel's
help
not
me with
there.
phasing.
It's been approved.
I
It's part,
understand.
it's part of the previous site plan. So this is in essence an amendment to an existing site plan. The hotel and the way that the phasing works is that the hotel and the office building are meant to be the next phases, and the apartments will be the last phase. That's the way
And
the conditional use permit.
Roundabout is,
The roundabout is
before-
before any of it.
okay, so you have sort of like three phases coming up, the roundabout, the hotel and office building,
Right.
and the apartment building.
And it's all sort of tied to the timing of COs. So we may be able to begin construction on something, but we're not going to get a CO until the roundabout is completed.
Not gonna get
It's a
any
big
COs.
dance.
Huh?
It's a big dance.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well, so
Everything's been asked.
open it up.
Excellent. All right, at this time, I will open up to the public hearing. Good evening. Please state your name.
My
and
name
your-
is Beth Burns. I live at 5 Spruce Street, and most of you in here know me very well because I've come to every meeting I can. First off, I still, as I said last time, I still feel like it's a meeting half Republican, half Democrat, and we can't seem to find a full happy medium together on some things. And I appreciate Gordon mentioning, some trees and things like that. I personally don't trust the buffer being touched at all. The trees he noted, have we studied these trees? Do we understand the needs of these trees? If they grow in sun, do they need shade? What kind of moisture? Because I can tell you right now, balsam firs are short-lived. They don't live very long, those trees, okay? And these all need at least full sun to partial shade. They can have full shade, and it is rather shady there for the most part. The white spruce, any reduction in moisture for a white spruce makes it hard for them to continue to grow. So with the way we've been going with the lack of rain and other things, you could plant it and you can think it's going to become this big 20 to 40 foot tree and be everything we ever wanted, and it very well may not. Also with the eastern red cedar, they're toxic to dogs, just so you know anything. The berries, anything like that are toxic. So that's something to think about, since people with dogs do live in those apartments, and probably will in the second one. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I appreciate other things being considered to be planted for our privacy and other things. I do appreciate that, but we have to be realistic on that exact location where it is. First and foremost, our buffer needing to be left alone. And secondly, if you're going to spend some time planting things there, be sure it's what's going to definitely suit the purpose to benefit us all, is all I ask. I also personally, I don't see how they think we have enough fire protection when you have buildings that large this close to us with that many people. You have to remember, it's not just the size of the people that come there and go, and our risks of what is our fire protection really going to be? I also, I know we still don't have the roundabout. That's been an issue for years now, and it's still an issue. In another meeting we had a while back, this apartment, the next, in phase 2 apartment building is not supposed to be as tall as the current one. It was, came right out of their mouths. It was gonna be no more than 3, not 4. That stood out to me, and I wrote it in nice big print, because I'm not saying it made me 100% happy, but it made me more satisfied than the size of the building that's currently there. That needs to be agreed upon flat out. You want to put another New York City size apartment building right behind, right on top of us, literally like this. And they, again, they don't realize how close this is to our homes. And I guarantee if, as I've said before, if I was going to build all this right next to Greeley Park, someone in this building would have jumped out of his chair a long time ago. All I'm asking is to be realistic and respectful of what's really on the line with this lot. It's gonna be a can of sardines back there. When all that, you look at this picture, it looks like, oh, that doesn't look like very much. It's just a couple of buildings. Look at all that open area. It's not going to be that way when these buildings are built. Space needs to be taken into account. We don't have the space. The roundabout is an issue, and that's because of that location. I've stated before, I've used Starbucks as an example. You drive up to Starbucks, there's enough room there to build that Starbucks. You go in, you drive around to the drive-through, you pay. You have to drive all the way back around again to leave. You can't go out the way you went in. I'm not saying it takes a half hour of my time, to do that, but it's just an obvious note that that's clearly not the area for something like that, but yet it was put there anyway. We're going to start going through a lot of the same thing with this here unless we really we really need to put our hands down on this about the size of these buildings and the closeness to us and the size of this one. You can't just do a part of the building being a little lower, but the rest is going to be four floors. It's too big and too high, and that was not supposed to be what was going to happen with this area. I'm sorry, but that is how I feel, and I think we deserve to have this looked at before we start agreeing to anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Good evening, sir.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Michael Mills. I live at 7 Arbor Street here in Merrimack.
Put your microphone.
Just bring it a little closer.
Is this better? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Mills, 7 Arbor Street in Merrimack. I come to this meeting confused, disappointed, and somewhat angry. Let me start by saying that I don't understand how a planning board in a town, first off, can have 4 scheduled meetings continued every month for the last 4 months. There has to be a better system. There's people that don't know that these meetings are even taking place. There's people that don't know that there's any questions pertaining to what's happening in their backyard. I spoke to one of them tonight when I come to the meeting. Oh, I thought that was 4 months ago. No, it's tonight. Why doesn't this planning board take some action? Why don't you, as a board, take action that would consist of something like you can have 2 continuances in a 6-month period. If you want any more continuances, more than that, you have to wait 6 months. You can't keep filing month after month after month from meeting after meeting after meeting. It's not fair to the people that live here in this town. People are getting very frustrated saying, we don't know what's going on. And that's one of the problems. This planning board has decided to go on and not notify the abutters. Why? It doesn't cost the town any money. The developer pays for the cost of notifying the abutters. Does anybody know why we don't notify the abutters that there's a meeting pertaining to what's taking place in their backyard? Why don't we do that? I'm confused about that. please, someone make a motion at some point to have a limit on how many meetings a developer can ask for continuances at. 2, maybe 3 in a 6-month time period. I used to be a developer here in the town. I developed a couple of sites. I've developed several sites throughout the state. I've never seen anyone come in month after month after month asking for a continuance. It's not fair to the people that come to these meetings. I'll tell you, that's why no one else is here. We're fed up. We're fed up. If you're not ready to appear at the meeting, then don't schedule it. Simple as that. And please, go back to notifying the abutters. They have a right to know that there's a discussion taking place in their backyard. Why are we here? I didn't know that we were going to be here to discuss 178 more apartments. When this project was approved, this board's members stood up and said, this is not a apartment complex project. This is a mixed-use project. We're going to have a hotel. We're going to have offices. We're going to have retail. And yes, we're going to have some apartments. Well, I think this all started sometime around 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe even earlier than that. I don't see in a hotel. I've been told the hotel is under construction. It's not. There's nothing there. Maybe there's some pipes under the ground, but there's certainly not a single board that has been built for the hotel. No retail, no commercial, nothing other than apartments. I've come to this meeting where I've heard several members of the planning board stand up and, I'm sorry, not stand up, but mention, if I knew that this is what the project was going to be, an apartment complex, I would have turned it down. And yet so many members of the planning board have raised their hands saying, yes, let's approve that. Let's put in more apartments. It makes me wonder, am I missing something here? Is there something going on that the town doesn't know about, that the residents don't know about? We started out with a mixed-use project. We had a beautiful picture up here of what the streets were going to look like, what the building was going to look like. This nice hotel with if you want to get married, you could get married right there. I remember part of the conversation was that this is going to be a nice little neighborhood. People are going to live here. They're going to walk to work. They're going to walk to work. They're going to stop at noontime, and they're going to walk to the restaurants. They're going to have a choice of restaurants here. It's going to be buffered all the way around the project. Buffered all the way around the project. And now they're talking about taking down the trees to put in a spot for the school bus. That's a wooded area. That was supposed to remain a natural area. Look at the old plans. What's happening here before everybody is that it's being presented to us piecemeal. It's being presented to us, well, we're going to just put a little turnaround in here so they can pull over and pick up the kids. It's going to be great. It's going to be, no, that is a wooded area that's supposed to remain natural. Look at the old plans. Can a developer come in here today and say, well, I promised this, before we're going to leave the buffers there. And I know that was a big selling point because it would shield, not much of a shield, but shield the buildings a little bit away from everything. And now people forget about what the original plan was. That wasn't what the plan was. I don't know. It doesn't, I'm disappointed. Again, we start with the beautiful plan, and now what do we have? I don't see anything being presented, and they're going to point out that little area right up there in the middle. What's been discussed almost 99% of the time this evening is the apartments going in. When this was first presented to the town, There was a study done. One of the questions was, how many students are going to be going to the school? The answer today, 178 units, the answer is, I don't know, 10 or 12 maybe, I think is what, maybe 14, and not very many. What happened to the study about finding out how many kids are going to be going to school and what that's going to cost the town? We gave up on that. What happened to the study of what it's going to cost the town to maintain whatever has to be maintained that the town has to pay for, and what the taxes are that are coming in? It was always that the apartments could not be built without the commercial, residential, and hotel. And now we're forgetting about that? Let's go back to the original plan. If somebody wants to come in with an original, with a new plan for an apartment complex, let them start from scratch and not come in every month with a new thing. Oh gosh, last time we were here, we agreed on this. I don't remember anybody agreeing on some of the points that were brought up this evening. I don't remember that. And I've gone to most of the meetings. I went to the last meeting that's being referenced here. No. If this is a new plan, if this is an apartment complex, let's start from scratch one and say it is not a mixed-use development. This is not a mixed-use development. You can't come in here and speak for 5 minutes about, I don't even know where the restaurant is on here or anything else, and I sat here, and you gentlemen are a lot more experienced at this than I am, but I'm confused about what they're talking about up here. If you told me I'll give you $100 if you explained what the office space is going to look like, I have no idea. And they're talking about handicap spaces. That's governed by the federal rules. They have to have those handicap spots in there, and they have to be near the exits and the entrances to the building. They're not doing us any favor doing that. I have a handicap parking permit. I expect it to be near the door to where I'm going. What's happened with the mixed-use concept? Has that gone out the window? Then if that has, then I expect this board to stand up and say, it's no longer a mixed use, it's an apartment complex. And I'm angry. I'm angry. We were repeatedly told by many members of this board that they would not approve a plan for more apartments. What are we doing here then tonight? We're discussing a plan for more apartments. The planning board should be representing the interests of the town, not completely the interests of the developer. I have yet to hear anyone from the town of Merrimack stand up and say, please, planning board, approve this darn plan. Not a single person. Do you remember the planning board members saying, particularly, I won't point in any direction, in particular, being planning board members saying, again, I'll repeat myself, if someone comes in and wants more apartments, I would turn it down, and yet at the meetings, they've raised their hand, oh yeah, let's talk about more apartments. There has to be some credibility here. And I'm not trying to insult people. I want to thank those that have taken into consideration the concerns of the town. And there's several members of the board that have done that, and I want to thank you for doing that. Does anyone remember when the hotel was to be built? It was to be built in conjunction with the first phase of the apartment building. I was here when the developer came in and said, I want to be able to build the apartment building, start renting out units, and I won't rent out any more than 50% of that building until the hotel is 100% complete. Anybody remember that? 100% complete. I believe the apartments, I don't know this for a fact, but I'll tell you the vacancy rate in in New Hampshire is 1.7% vacancy. That building, when I drive by, seems to have lights in every window. Where the heck is the hotel? It was supposed to be built, if you look at the records, the hotel, the apartment could not be occupied more than 50% without the hotel being constructed completely. What is the penalty for violating that rule? Nothing? So why come into the planning board? Is the planning board going to terminate this meeting tonight without taking action that their regulation about the occupancy of the hotel was never followed? And are they going to give credibility to the developer that's before us today, who's making promises of what's going to happen with no background that he stands up to these promises? What happened to the turn lane into this project? That was supposed to be completed before the apartment was 100% complete. Look at the records. There is no turn lane. There is no hotel. There's not even a hotel that's under construction. And you're considering extending this project anymore without having met previous requirements to get to where it is today? That's not how this works, people. That is not how this works. There is no there is residential, there's no commercial, there's no restaurants, there's nothing here other than more apartments going up. And what assurance does our town have that anything other than more apartments are ever going to be built here? We have none. We have no credibility. I have no credibility in the developer. He hasn't built the hotel. He hasn't built the turnaround lane. He's now before us saying, I'm going to tear down the buffer that's supposed to remain natural. I'm going to put in a traffic, a bus stop in there. This has to stop. And this is the board that can stop it. I want to thank the questions that have been brought up tonight. I think they were all excellent questions, and I appreciate that very much. I think, speaking on many members of the town, having had a television program for quite an extended time period about this whole not this development, but other developments here in the town of Merrimack. People live here not to live next to a 4 or 5-story apartment building. If we wanted to do that, we'd live in Manchester. We'd live in, even Nashua probably doesn't. 5-story apartment building in Nashua? I can't picture any houses that are 240 feet away from a 5-story apartment building or a 4-story apartment building anywhere in this area. Please don't let it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right. With that, I will close the public hearing.
Let Gordon talk, yeah.
Would you please, Gordon, come on back?
So I guess where we are is, Robert has recommended a continuance to the 15th. Is that correct?
Yeah, just to allow the discussions about sewer to continue and finalize, to see if that agreement can get kind of hammered out more completely.
I mean, we do have a number of waivers that we are looking for. They're mostly technical in nature. So I don't know whether you care to deal with any of that now or just wait until the finale.
I'm ready to deal with it, but how do the others feel? I don't.
How does everybody feel about that?
I'd prefer to wait till it's a complete package.
Okay.
I'm not likely to be here.
Understood. I typically defer to
This
Bob in
is
these
a very
moments.
short-staffed board. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to move forward with it at this point or not. I mean, do you prefer one
That's
way or the
amicable to
other?
you, Gordon.
It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, we can present it all as one piece when we get to it. That's
do it that way.
probably the,
If you don't mind.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
Excellent.
it's okay.
Vote?
You don't need to vote on that, no.
Just continuance? Understood?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, so applicant.
Thank you.
Is the applicant willing to grant an extension to the board?
Yes, we are.
Okay, what's the date of that extension?
It would be the 15th.
October
Okay.
15th.
So they've granted you guys permission to continue to at least the 15th and no further, so that would be what they are looking for,
All right.
and what staff would recommend.
Do you want to address any of the comments from the public, or are you? I mean, the idea that you said that the building would never be more than 3 stories on top of a garage?
That's not true.
I don't recall that in history.
That was said.
Well,
As God is my witness,
That is in the record.
That was said.
this is the plan that we presented, or this is the elevation that we presented,
That
and,
is not the elevation that was presented, not the plan that was.
Okay.
I mean,
Someone needs to
Tom, I'm
look at
gonna-
the records. for
we
the
can
town.
agree to disagree,
and
but,
be
you know,
prepared.
and with regard to the uses and the fiscal impact and the, including the school impact, all of that was part of the conditional use permit application.
Not for
And-
178 more units.
All right, we can close this and have a continuance to the 15th of
Okay,
October.
all right, perfect.
Thank you, Gordon, thank you.
You might want to mention that these changes that were brought about from the original concept were agreed to by the board in the past. And we have had public hearings on it, and when we talked about changing the concept here from the original mixed use. Gordon, are you?
Well, that was, I mean, we have an approved conditional use permit, and all
Yeah.
of this, all of the
All of
use
this was-
issues, all of,
was
this
taken
plan
care
has
of
not
then.
changed appreciably with respect to the big picture, only in the details, since we were approved for the conditional use.
Yeah, I just wanted that on the record here, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate
Colleen,
your time.
yeah, we need a motion.
So
Oh.
you need a motion.
So I need a motion.
A motion
continue.
to continue
Till
to the
October 15th.
15th of October. I will so move.
I will second.
All right, motion made by Nelson, seconded by Mark. All those in favor?
Can I just ask, do we want to ask that the abutters be notified? Or are we going to continue to say that no notification is necessary?
Robert, is that okay for us to request that?
You're within your rights to, it's not a legal requirement to.
I mean, I felt like there was a reasonable
Understood? That's reasonable.
request made that 6 or 4 or however many continuances we've had, when all you say is at the meeting, they're not here tonight, come back next time.
Is there enough time to
Is it-
notify them for the 15th?
We have to send them out this week, but yes.
Okay. All right, so motion to continue the 15th with notifications to abutters
At applicant expense.
at applicant expense.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion made by
That's the
Nelson.
motion, yeah.
I will second that again.
Seconded, okay. And, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? 4-0-0. Thank you very much.
Robert, just as a, do you want a copy of that? It's on the laptop. Okay.
May I bring up that point of order, is there going to be any penalty for the occupancy of the hotel when it was not, the occupancy for the apartment building, when it was not to be occupied until the hotel was completed and the traffic lane was put in? Is that going to be addressed at all? It was your rule, your requirement.
I'm sorry, sir, that part of the meeting is over. All right, next item on the agenda, James Bartlett, applicant, and Evelyn C. Barrett, revocable trust owner. Review for acceptance and consideration of a two-lot subdivision of a 4.6 acre lot resulting in a new residential building lot. Post subdivision, one lot would be comprised of approximately 2.4 acres, and the new building lot would be comprised of approximately 2.3 acres. The parcel is located at 31 Turkey Hill Road in the R4 Residential by Soils and Aquifer Conservation Districts, tax map 5C, lot 5, case planning board 2024-17. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Earl Sanford of Sanford Surveying and Engineering, here with James Barrett, the trustee and owner. So yeah, this is pretty simple compared to what we just went through. We have a just under 5 acre parcel that we want to subdivide into 2 parts. We originally wanted to do it, we thought we would have the area to do it without connecting to the sewer, but we're under by like 1,000 square feet or so. And because sewer's right there, we worked it out to make, it already had connection to water, so we had that, but we've now worked it out with DPW to be connecting to the sewer as well. And so, based on that, I think everyone knows we're on Turkey Hill Road. I think Beacon Drive loops around, and this is at one end of the loop, comes out right on the corner of the property. So we've basically divided it into two, to a 2.256 acre on the right, that would be the new one. So it's only one new house lot, and then the existing house where James lives now would be maintained. We did have a nuance in terms of connecting to, because we're not connecting into the road as the usual procedure is, we worked it out to create 2 new sewer manholes that'll be owned individually that then will connect into the existing sewer manhole that runs through, it bisects the property as it is in its existing conditions form. It's pretty simple. We're showing there's a kettle pond with some wetlands. I did not see any of the signs of a vernal pool, so I don't believe it qualifies as that. And you've got Pole Brook off to the left. And again, because we're connecting to water and sewer, that puts us under 150 feet of frontage, which we have 635, so theoretically, we would have 4 lots worth of frontage. And the lot size would need to be 40,000 square feet, and which we have enough for 5 lots based on that. So we're not pushing the envelope on this at all. We're just doing a modest, I mean, it does have constraints geometrically because of the sewer easement and things, so I'm not trying to say he's giving up all 2 extra lots, but it is large scale for the fact that it has water and sewer. I guess that's my point there. I've read through the comments. I talked to Mike today, Mike Gorman, and we're on the same page. All his comments are reasonable, and we have no objection to adding some notes to the plan, making sure that it's understood that people can't store things within the easement, understanding that both sewer manholes have to be built as part of the initial construct, along with a 10-foot stubbed pipe. And then upon failure of the septic system, you'd attach just to the pipe. The structure would be there, no more working within the easement required. So that's all set up for future. We've got a letter from the water, is it Merrimack? What's the?
Merrimack Village District.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got a letter from them recently that it's feasible to hook up to to their service with a new dwelling on the property there.
Right. So again, it's pretty simple. We made sure there was sight distance lines. There is quite the traffic does move pretty fast in there. And we have a conceptual house shown here. You know, again, it'll be connected to the water and the sewer, as we've just discussed. And this shows the connection plan for the sewer. And I think,
I'm sorry, it's hard to see that, where that house is. Our plans don't have the house on it, or mine didn't.
you don't have sheet 4 or 5?
So I've got,
You should on 4, yeah.
I've got 4. Oh, whoops, here it is, it's way back here. Okay. Got it. But I don't see, that plan doesn't show the sewer easement. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, I see where it is. Question answered, thank you.
Okay.
The easement is 20 feet wide, so it's 10 feet each side of the center of the pipe. And it
Uh-huh.
runs from Turkey Hill Road all the way out to the back of the property.
Should you-
It services, I think it's 83 houses development, and I believe the middle school on Madeline Bennett Drive,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
I don't know if it services anything else, but I think that's it. Well, somehow they had to have, that's just what I was told at one time, but maybe it is just the housing project back there. It is an 18-inch pipe, I think, is that correct? That's what you had on the plan, so.
Yes, 18-inch
Yeah.
sewer
Yeah.
pipe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The middle school line comes right down Wabusick Lake Road.
okay, all right, thank you.
I
Yeah.
promise you it does. It's
So-
buried so deep and it's got so many bumps in it that,
Yeah,
not anymore, they fixed that, but.
yeah. So I'm representing my mother as a trustee. She's still alive. She's 96 and a half years old.
Bless her heart.
My parents bought this property in 1956. And Earl and I spent quite a bit of time doing a feasibility study on this. I didn't want to just jump into this and kind of take it lightly, because even though I only foresaw maybe one single-family home being built next to us because in consideration of the neighbors. There's also a good amount of woodland on the property, and where the house would be located would actually be fairly private. The way the driveway and everything would kind of go back in there. So all that kind of stuff was taken into consideration. There was quite a bit of back and forth with the Michael Gorman and the wastewater department and the public works, but it took a while, but we were able to work out, I think, the correct way to be able to develop this property, for one other single-family dwelling. So, yeah.
And again, I could go through the conditions, but I think you all have them before you, and we're in agreement to comply with every request. So I'm happy to open it up for questions and
Thank
not
you.
belabor it.
Very, very much. I appreciate it. All right. Board?
I'm all set.
No questions, Nelson?
No questions on
So the back of the second property is just gonna be vacant wooded property at this point, or some wetland and whatnot?
Yeah, so basically, the easement has an access, kind of a road that goes over it. So it does allow somebody that own that property to either walk back there over the easement, or,
Yeah.
I mean, I've driven my van over it to, pick up brush and do different things like that. The easement agreement obviously says that, it always has to be accessible. You can't build a structure on it or do anything like that. You can't do any digging on it or drill any wells or anything like that on it. So, yeah, it'll just be,
Can build a driveway across it?
no, that's
No,
not,
because you
not
have
in
to
the
be
pro-
able to dig up that area.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that
To
depends on
maintain
your
the
interpretation
pipe, I
of the
think.
easement, because the easement did say for continued use by the owner, who was his dad. So there is some legalities, but they're moot at this point, because we're not
You're not asking for it?
trying to do
yeah.
anything with
Excellent.
that.
You're not planning.
Yeah, and also the sewer agreement does state that any successors or assigns shall not erect or construct any buildings or other structures or drill on it, stuff like that. And whoever would purchase this lot, they would have to conform to the original statement that's right here. It's called the sewer easement. So
all of those regulations would be carried along. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, I was just curious whether there was a thought that the back part could anything be done with it, but not, I mean, it's between the wetlands and the kettle pond and whatnot, there's not a lot of really useful space back there.
Yeah, it's a fenced-off area, which is nice. The abutters on the east side and in the back off of the Pilgrim Ave area, that's all fenced. My mother had a fence put in there many years ago. So it is pretty private, actually. But, we're not looking to do anything on that lot to develop it other than what's on the plan with one single-family house and the location of the proposed driveway.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the clause
I have
that-
one question for you related to, you're showing a retaining wall for a portion of it, and it looks like the height difference, looks like it could be
Right up
4 to
there
5
between the
feet,
two.
somewhere in that range. I think it's between the two.
Along the side of the driveway, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, we try to keep it under 4 feet.
Okay, it will be under 4 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
That's, just to keep the driveway, I mean, is it?
Right, just to level it out.
Keep it from being
Yep.
too super elevated as you
There-
go along the driveway.
If you look at the contours, there is a little knoll there, and the house, I think, might be kind of tucked in back behind that. It might give it a little privacy from the street. I don't believe I don't know of any ledge in that area. So this is pretty close to the Souhegan River, which has a lot of sand, outwash sand areas, like alluvial sands and stuff like that. So,
My concern with the retaining walls, once you get above 4 feet, it becomes more structural in nature and less architectural, and just wanted, the difference, the only thing I could see was up to 4 feet. I just wanted to make sure that was not in excess of that.
Excellent.
Looks pretty straightforward. Yeah.
All right, at this time, I'd like to open it to public hearing. All right, I'll close the public hearing. All right, gentlemen, board, first we need to make a decision. Is the application complete? Is there a
You
motion?
need a motion for that. I will
Yes,
make
sir.
a motion that
Is
this
there a second?
application is complete.
I will second.
All right, motion made by Nelson, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? 400, motion moves. All right, and
There's a waiver?
There is a waiver, yes.
there's a waiver. All right,
The waiver
there's
was
a waiver for
For
the
the si-
subdivision
for the
regulations.
sidewalk. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. but-
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, so we're just asking for a waiver. To put a sidewalk, it would be not connect to anything, and it would go on top of the water lines that are already there on the side of the road. So I think it's a reasonable waiver.
I think so too.
I would agree. It's an 8-foot sidewalk to
Okay.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. Robert, do I have to have a vote on the waiver? Just a motion? Is there
I
a
will
motion?
move that we waiver the requirement for a sidewalk on this subdivision.
Citing strict conformity of.
Oh,
Or
well,
hardship.
yes, would impose an undue hardship, and there's no other sidewalks in the area. Okay?
There? I
I
need
will
a second.
second again. yeah.
All right, motion made by Nelson and seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, 400, the motion moves. And then lastly, Robert, I need to,
Approve.
final motion?
Approve it.
Approve it.
Yeah,
Conditional approval.
so,
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to find that with the proposed conditions of approval, the application meets all applicable regulatory requirements necessary, and further, to grant conditional final approval to the application, subject to the recommended conditions of approval presented in the staff memo dated September 27, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, the motion is made by Tom and seconded by Nelson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, motion moves 400. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
All right. Next item on the agenda is 769 DWY LLC, CO Chris Strickler, applicant owner, review for acceptance and consideration of a site plan to construct a 269,325 square foot warehouse and associated site improvements. The parcel is located at 769 Daniel Webster Highway in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Districts, Conservation Districts, tax map 7E, lot 41, case planning board 2024-18. Good evening, sir.
Sorry. Good evening, Matt Peterson with Peach Norris Associates, here representing the proposed non-residential site plan for the 269,000 square foot warehouse to be located at 769 DW Highway in Merrimack, New Hampshire. I think probably most of you know this site or where we are. We are at basically the town line. This is our property. Oops. This is our property right here in this location. Jogs out around this use here, comes down in here, comes around back in here, and then comes down along in here. This is the town line driving range, and obviously this is the bridge over the highway. One of the things just to point out here as I get to my waivers later on is that this is your rail trail that comes all the way down along the river that's here. That ties into the trail that the DOT built here to bring you up to their bridge. And then you can make the bridge and you can make yourself across and kind of head off into the different areas there. They haven't really done a lot into this area here or to give access to it here. Obviously the rail trail continues to extend all the way up into Bedford there as it goes through and across into Manchester. This site has been, it's kind of interesting. This was a residential subdivision back in the day. This driveway actually was still a town right-of-way when we started doing our research. We had to go through and deal with some of that stuff to have that removed. And that is why the DOT kind of left that curb cut out there when they kind of expanded and stuff like that for it. It didn't have a road name, but it was on a plan back in the day. And then on the back half of our property here, when this bridge was put through, the DOT purchased approximately 100 feet back in here. My guess is it was mitigation for the bridge and for the eagles that they were talking about at the time to make sure that they all had nesting spots and stuff like that. I would say that I've been doing this since '95 here, and I love the fact that we see way more eagles than we have ever seen in the last year or 2 years now. I think we've done substantial work at making sure our wildlife and stuff like that continues to grow in the state. I just hope we kind of curb it back a little bit because we can continue to push the envelopes here. It seems to be we're going quite far. So the existing conditions plan on this property. We actually found out that this property actually has land in Bedford. It has 2.21 acres in Bedford that was not in the title search when my client bought this property. Because apparently nowadays title searches only go back 35 years, I think it was. And it was about year 40 that this was kind of found here. So the town of Bedford has this as DOT land and does not have a tax map number on it. That's why there's not one here. We talked to the town of Bedford at the beginning of this project with the planning department. We were going to do a building on both the town of Bedford and in Merrimack, but we're actually, unlike some of the other uses we've had here, I know you all know Chris Strickler. He's been in town. He's done a couple projects with his board here, but he's being backed by a national company right now that's looking at this. And actually the 269, 270 square footage is what some people are interested in right now. So we backed out the Bedford piece. We figured if they ever wanted to expand the building, they could go to Bedford if they wanted to at that point and deal with it. But it didn't make sense right now for us to move it. And again, when we first started this project, we thought we just owned land in Merrimack. So we kind of found out during the process that we had land in both. This site has a wetland complex basically along the whole frontage here. And then it runs into Sebbins Brook. And then that brook continues its way out to the Merrimack River. You can see the roadway kind of comes in around the driveway we had. It comes up and around and kind of back down. There's a house out in there with lots of interesting stuff going on around it. A few different sheds, a few different buildings, stuff like that. So that's the existing, again, across from the driving range. We did meet with the DOT and actually comments from staff and stuff like that. original concept, we were not lined up with the one across the street. We have now lined up with the one across the street. I am actually going to reach out to them this week because my client would like to sit down with them so that we do maybe a joint off-site improvements plan instead of one person doing it, waiting for the other person to do it, and then coming in a day later, kind of working with them on that. So we are going to reach out to them just to kind of see if they would like to do some joint. I'm not really sure if they're moving forward as quickly as we may be moving forward, it sounds like. So it may come down to us having to take on the extra work as we go. We put together the removals plans in this plan set here. I'm sure you've gone through them. This thing outlines the roadway that's going to be removed. We are going to use this roadway here. We'd like to use this roadway if we move forward as the construction entrance for now. And then we would rip it up and loam and seed it and put it back to natural and stuff like that after. And you'll see that in my erosion control plans later on.
What page are you on?
I'm
sorry.
on sheet 3.
Sheet 3.
I believe it is there. I can't see that far, but
I think that was
I'm actually sheet 4.
sheet 4. Sheet 4, okay, here we go.
Sorry, right-hand corner.
All right. I'm with you now.
All right. So then sheet 4 and sheet 5. Sheet 5 shows you the existing house and all the stuff that we need to move there. Shows the limit of the tree line. One of the nice things about this, and you'll see on my site plan, is this building sitting back about 450 feet from the road. Parking lot does not start till about 350 feet back from the road. Obviously, there's a wetland we're crossing, and that's the main reason, else we'd probably put it closer if we could. So it gives a nice buffer to this project from the road itself there with what we're proposing in this location. The next sheet shows the overview of what we'd like to do. This is sheet 6 of 20. We have shown one building that is about 945 feet long by 285 feet deep. We have shown the loading docks along the back. We have proposed drive-in bays in the middle of some of these here so that they would have options to drive into the bays. We envision this as being one user right now. However, Chris, and because the market changes and stuff like that, he wanted to kind of at least consider the possibility that if it didn't go that direction, it could be cut up into units that made sense. So that's why you see the divisions that I have shown there. But currently, we are expecting it to be one user, and that's what we're working towards. The next two sheets, which will be 7 and 8, are just going to give you a blow-up detail of dimensions of the parking spaces, dimensions of the drive aisles. And I actually was very happy today when I was going through these plans to present. I have a huge snow storage area shown on my plans, which I don't have to add it later. I was very happy with my text when I saw that about 4 hours ago. So we've shown that as well on the plans, the direction of flow. We proposed, parking in front of the units here, and then you'll see on the next sheet, we separated the truck traffic coming in. We have the main access road at 30 feet wide. Again, vehicles, trucks and stuff like that, we want to make sure it's got some room going through there. As this comes in, we bend, and we did put parking spaces here, but I think we can all agree that it's quite a bit of parking on this site right here.
It looks like an awful lot for a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the regulations. Actually, I didn't even look at that earlier today. I'll have to get back to that in a minute there. But again, trying to meet the requirements that we had here and minimize what we had to do for the parking that was out there. So again, we have a separate drive aisle, comes around for the trucks, gets into the back here. We have dumpsters located on both ends for the uses that are there. As you all know, these are our most important sheets, the two grading plans. Sheets 9 and 10, they outline the grading and all that. This site will be we're bringing this site down quite a bit from the middle. And then we're kind of pushing all the material out to the sides and making a flat spot. I think we had about a 22-foot cut in one area by the house, and then we're filling back in this corner. We fill in the upper corner. You can see the grade here. We fill in this corner. So we come up from the road at about an 8% grade, 7.5% grade, and then we get to the building that's here. So we tried to balance as best we could the amount of cut coming down, and again, with the fill that we had around the site and stuff like that. So I think Bridget, who did my design on this, did a good job at that. From a drainage standpoint, obviously we're still dealing with the St. Cobain, with the AOT. So both these detention ponds are detention ponds. They are not infiltration ponds. They are lined with fabric, and then they both have treatment swales. The one in front, there'll be one in front and one in back. The one in front is sitting up in this location here. If you go back one sheet, it's a little easier to see. It's right in this location here. And then it is daylighting too, and again, the cut sheets were horrible here, but it's daylighting right here to a treatment swale. And then that makes its way along and out. And then the back one starts kind of mid-building here and goes all the way to the north, right up into this location here. And then again, we have another treatment swale that's coming out, wrap it around, and comes out and discharges into the rivers there. We also have the isolator rows, as you've seen back about probably 15, 20 years ago before we started infiltrating everything. The isolator row is where the sediment is supposed to settle inside the underground system. Those will be maintained on once a year. They'll send the vac in there to clean those out that needs to be. So there is the treatment first in that. The pre-treatment is the isolator row. The treatment swales is the final treatment per AOT. This has gone up to AOT. This will require a DES alteration of terrain permit. They have accepted the application as being complete. They are in the review process, and we are in the review process with them. Obviously, there were some hits for eagles along this strip of the Merrimack, so our wetland scientist, Cindy, at Stony Ridge Environmental, has to do a study for them to verify that there aren't any nests on this location right here, which we didn't have the nests on the site, but just they were in the general vicinity, which I work right up the street from this. I go down to the river and watch the eagles on a weekly basis there. There's quite a few there. So that's the drainage, the grading. Septics, we showed one location at the far end of the building. We had gotten a call from the sewer department to ask us if that really makes sense because of, this wasn't known by me, I probably should have, but I don't deal with internally a lot. The pipe inside the building, if it's underneath the slab, has to be at a minimum of a 2% slope. So if you run 2% for 985 feet from the farthest one, I'm almost 10 feet in the ground. But if I pull it out of the building, I can run it at 1%. So we've actually done a couple of redesigns, and I've actually got copies if you'd like to see them. But we're probably going to have 2, maybe 3 septic locations is what they did on the one, which blows my mind. But the one down by the sewer treatment plant, you can literally see the sewer treatment plant, and there's 3 septics on that building right there. I was like, you guys don't have sewer right there? And they're like, no, nothing runs down that street, which unbelievable. I mean, when those people probably bought that land and thought they were putting the building there, I'm sure they probably thought they had sewer. But we're proposing 3 septics just like that. Pretty minimal what we've seen from uses and people and stuff like that in these buildings in the past. We're not seeing, again, lots of people. Again, it's mostly storage. We're getting more animated, automated as we go forward and stuff like that. Utilities, really, really simple on this one. We're just pulling these in from Daniel Webster Highway. We got gas, we got water, and we got underground electric. They'll all come up our access road right into the building. I don't have much more on that. I do have to get the letter of availability for the water that's there, but we do have a fire hydrant that's just located just to the north of this here. So I know we have water. Pressure may be that I have to put a pump in or something, but we do have the water that's there on site. As I said earlier, we put in erosion control plans. These are these 2 plans which outline, if you go back one sheet, outline stockpile areas, access. Like I said beforehand, we'd like to use this existing driveway. It makes sense. It's already there. People know it's there. It's wide enough. It's got good visibility on both sides. So that would be our access coming in. We have the silt sock around the property as required by the AOT and alteration of terrain. And then we show the sediment forebays around all the catch basins throughout the site as we go through it. The next 2 are the landscaping. Again, because I had this heavy tree line right here, so I've got 250 feet of tree line till I get to the back of the building. I really concentrated the vegetation on the slope, on the top of the slope that came around the building. Figured that was the main screening, stick to the screening around the front in here. So we really put all the landscaping up in front. Seemed to make the most amount of sense. Again, we have our tree line that's kind of shown here, so we have the buffers to the side. I'm not really sure the I don't know what we'd call it, but the landscape area, I guess, on the back there that needs a huge screening from us there. But it's an interesting little project, I guess, that goes on back there with people dumping their grass clippings. But it is what it is. And again, the wetland is along the front here, and we're proposing our crossing. We'll see that in a minute here. Lighting, we're proposing 3 dark sky lights, again, wall packs, some lights around the site, and then some entrance lighting that we have on the building, the wall scones and stuff like that. All downcast, all dark sky, all done by the lighting company that we use out of Hampton to do them. So we feel pretty comfortable with what they produced and put in front of the board here tonight. We put together, like I said, a wetland impact plan. I have Conservation Commission not next Wednesday, the following Wednesday. And we are proposing an impact of 6,680 square feet. I've talked to Cindy, my wetland scientist. I've talked to the DOT. We're putting the access point where people want it. It's not necessarily at the narrowest point of the wetland, but it's at the right point that it should be on the site on where it's going. I am also meeting with the Lower Merrimack River Advisory Council. Are you still on that board? All right, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks from tomorrow, or 2 weeks from Thursday. We're meeting with them on that. We've got on their agenda as well. So again, we've met with DOT, sent up the AOT, we've got the COMCOM, and we've got the Lower Merrimack River Advisory Board, all our plans to them and stuff like that to take a look at it. As far as drainage goes, I kind of skipped over that a little bit. If you go back to the grading plans, we have 4 points of analysis for this. We are analyzing basically Sebbins Brook to the north. We're analyzing the property to the south, and we analyzed the property to the east. And then we tied all 3 of those links into the Merrimack River because they all make it to the Merrimack River at the end of the day. So we felt that that was the right way to analyze it. As you guys know, and it's in our reports and you can see in the state, we've reduced it on all these storms, except for one to the south. This one here, the south, yes, this is south. The one to the south, it's such a small area that for the 2-year storm, it's 0 pre, 0 post. The 10-year storm, it's 0 pre, 0 post. The 25-year storm, it's 0.01, and it's 0.02 in the post. So the state of New Hampshire allows us that's the mathematical anomaly. We used to have somebody on this board here that would give me a whole lecture on it for about a half an hour, John Segerty, on how that works. But we're allowed to use that, and we put that in the regs there. So we do meet the requirements with what we've submitted to the town and stuff like that. That was the wetland. As I said, the profiles as we come in, I can't see that far, so I will tell you what it is on this plan here. Yeah, we came in, we went down 2%, and then we went up at 8%, and then we flattened it out at 1.95, just coming up at the top. And then around the parking lot, it's 1%, 1%. And you can see we got fill in areas, we've got cuts in areas and stuff like that. So that's how we balanced those 2 that were there. Drainage profiles, site distance out there. Again, while we're in the process with DOT, I'm still in the process with 734 on DOT. I've heard that Rich is reviewing it, so I'm hoping that I'm really close on that one, but could take some time as well, I'm sure. All right, so those are the plans. Kind of get into the architectural. So again, doing my review today, and I'm not sure if you saw this or not, Robert, we kind of submitted 3 options for our architectural. I don't think I meant to do that. I think I should have picked one and submitted it to you, but I didn't read the fine print from Dennis Myers when I submitted all 3 of those. I thought there were 3 elevations. So what we would like to do is, this is elevation 1. This has 6 windows in the front. Obviously the garage doors in the back, stuff like that. So what we'd like to do is do 4 windows in the front as an option, raise up the building so that we have character as we go down the building, and put a parapet on here. So I want to take basically a little bit of each one of these and piece it together and say, we would like to do the one that's most similar to this here with the raised roof, with the parapet, so that it breaks up the facade as you go through it. And just, I think 4 windows on each side with what I'm envisioning for office space inside there is gonna be plenty. Wall space is a premium when you do these types of things. If the board feels that's an issue, we can, it's not a big deal to us to do the 6. We obviously showed it to you and submitted it, so it is what it is there. But again, we're 450 feet back from the road. You're never gonna see these windows from there, so it's only when you drive up. So I think the 4 on each side, and again, it would continue down. It'd be 4, 8, 12, 16, all the way down. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the 8, times the 8. So we'd have 45 or so, what did I just say? 8 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 45 units there, windows along it, and then the parapet with it that's there. Traffic. We had submitted a traffic memo. We have used Vaness and Associates out of Andover, Mass. They're the ones working with us to obtain the DOT permit. They're going through the process right now, as we all are. These things are pretty minor for the weekday PM peak hours. The numbers say that you're going to have somewhere around 56 trips entering in the morning. We actually broke that down to probably about 5 trucks and 51 of your employees kind of coming in cars. And then the evening would be 59, and you're talking 8 and 51. I can just tell you the DOT felt that this was a pretty minor traffic generator. So they're working with us on this as we do. We do have to have some type of turn lane to get into this site coming from the new interchange. Not new anymore, but coming from the interchange. A left turn coming into the site, we're gonna have to have on that there. So we're gonna be working with them on final plans for them to sign off on that. I don't know, it's been late. I know I'm the only one here, so I'll take questions, I guess. I can go on, but I know
Thank
Nelson's
you.
got some for me. We are asking for some waivers. One is the electric vehicle charging stations. I really think that should be looked at differently in your regulations. My personal thing is that a lot of times if we put in 1 or so, you're almost alienating employees that you work with when one person gets to charge his car all day, but the rest of us have to pay for gas and stuff. Yes, we could all go buy it, but I personally believe that the owner should be making those choices if they want to put that and keep it together. But if the board feels it's different, we can look at it. But I think it's something that each individual owner should be looking at to put in if they have those many people that are doing it. I can say in my office, we have absolutely 0 that have it. And we have people that have Priuses and other cars. I'm not saying they're not, different takes of everything, but nobody has a charging car in I think they're a little expensive for people that work where we do. And we're talking about the sidewalk. I went back and forth on this, Nelson. We did it up at 734 DW Highway. When we get to the guardrails right on the right side of the DOT, so the sidewalk's not gonna make it up to their trail that goes across the bridge. They've already put in that other rail that goes down to the rail trail. I don't know. I take your input, really. It's not the end of the world either way, obviously. It's a sidewalk, but I'm not sure what when you look at your regs and you talk about sidewalks for being shopping areas, places go to, parks, recs, I don't know where they're walking from this to that. I don't know where the residents are coming from, so. Whereas 734 was right across the street.
Okay.
734 is.
The old Majestic Motors. We did a sidewalk on
That's
that.
what, we did a sidewalk there, right? Yeah.
DOT was like, what are you doing here?
All right.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
open it to question.
That's it. So we told DOT, we said, well, Nelson likes them here, so that's where we put it in there, so.
They said, oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
Okay, Nelson. All right. Thank you very much.
So-
I'll open it up to comments, questions,
Okay,
conversation,
I have
concerns.
comments and questions, as Matt predicted.
All right.
Well, going back to I missed some of what you said about the sewer. Why,
Okay.
where's the end of the sewer now in Merrimack, which is?
Oh, it's it's right across from the old roller where I used to work, right across Society Hill up there. It's up at the point where they just did that new
Yeah,
building. It's right
I knew
there.
they went that far anyway, yeah.
It's right there. We'd have to, so when I was looking at the driving range across the street, we envisioned potentially putting in a pump station and running up the right-of-way
Yeah,
with a force main, but DOT doesn't like force mains in the right-of-way. So there's no way that it's gravity, because that's all coming downhill to us. So the only way we could tie in would be to pump it up to that system there. And I don't know that that's really needed for the amount of, if I was, if you want to let me have 200 residential units right here, I'll put in a pump station all day, but, warehousing with the amount of people, we just don't have the flows. So you have
Okay.
problems with, the pumps, they get stuck, they come on and off a lot, you burn them out, you have stuff like that. Steve Keach has told me that you guys had a vision to run the interceptor down the rail trail at one point, but that's never, it hasn't really happened.
That was a long time ago.
Well, Steve's been
Yeah.
around a while too.
Yeah, before anybody looked at the topography.
Yeah, so, really,
Okay, I
what we.
didn't know if it would reach, and you say it can, but it wouldn't, it doesn't justify for such a.
We would have to run a force main up to it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Going back to your, I missed your point about the 40 windows versus the 8 windows and,
So, the original one here, we had showed,
now, what do you
one,
mean by
two,
the original one?
I'm sorry, there's three of them that got submitted to you that I did not realize. So it says A301 at the bottom. Then I also submitted to you A301B. And then I also submitted to you A301C, unbeknownst to me.
Oh, okay, those are all different.
They're all slightly different.
Okay, but they're all the same building. It's not,
Same colors of the building.
yeah,
Same.
okay, all right.
So what I'd like to say is A301C is what we'd like to go with, which would have 4 lights on each of these kind of 8 basically windows.
Uh-huh.
For each one of these pods instead of 10.
Okay,
And then I'd like to raise up the roof in between to break it up with the parapets on those there.
yeah. Now, that's considerably below, when you're on DW Highway, you're looking down, you're looking at the roof of this building, right?
I don't believe that'll be the case. So the floor is at 172, and DW Highway is at, let's look at this one right here. So that's 56, 54, 52, 152.
You have an 8%
So
grade.
152. So the DW Highway is about 20 feet lower
Yeah.
than the site.
Oh, it is. This
Mhm.
is above,
believe, since the river's on the other side.
Yep.
It's a hill there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Well,
big
yeah, I-
hill right in the middle of the site, and then it again does drop back off, and obviously more and more as you get towards it. So yeah, this will sit about 20 feet above.
this building will be above.
2,
Oh,
4, 6,
Somehow I
8,
thought it would be below.
14,
It
16.
seems like it ought to be.
Yeah,
down to the
yeah.
river.
Right. When you drive by, and again, you don't see the topo because
Because
it's
of the
400 feet
trees
back.
covered, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so then we get to pick which of these 3 configurations we like, is that what you're saying?
Basically, that's what happens, yes.
Yeah, and what is the siding material? Is it steel?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I could go with 3.
So what is the difference between 301C and 301B?
So if you read this little text right up in here in the corner, and I don't understand exactly, because I asked Steve this about an hour and a half ago, it says that that is with the parapet, okay? But it's the same bump up as the 30B. And on B, it just says raised area. So I think what he was going with B was that this roof would be a little bit higher than the other roof, but there's no way my client wants that with putting stuff on the roof. We want the roofs to be the same elevation so that you have inside and deal with the outside with parapet. So I didn't really understand the text between the B and C.
So the parapet is just the facing
Yes,
versus the roof itself?
yes, yep, yep,
Okay. So C has the parapet.
yes. So C is really what we'd like to
Which-
do, what I think would make sense.
Aesthetically, from looking at the front, it's no different. I mean,
It wouldn't look any different from the front, no. No, you wouldn't unless
you
you
have to
had
get up on top or something
unless
to see
you're
the
standing on
flat
top.
roof or
Probably
whatever.
end up
But
steps down.
but that's not part of our requirements, is it, to have any relief on the roof? But there's supposed to be relief along the front. And this still has a flat front, all 900 feet, right? Except for the doors
Yes.
stick out a little bit?
Yes, yep, yep.
Well, I'm okay with his suggestion.
Yeah, these bump out
With
for
the
each
alternating
one.
roof height
Yeah.
or parapet,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just wondering if there's no
Bump outs?
bump outs or whatever, except
Yeah.
the doors are bumped out,
Yeah,
is that right?
if you look at, so if we go, what sheets did I just,
On that last,
I think it's the
Side
last sheet,
view.
right? Yes.
Oh,
So
1B.
these would, each one would bump out here.
Fix 001, see the very last page.
So is the difference in coloring just literally the color of the panels? Light gray, dark gray?
Yes.
That's okay.
And actually, it appears to me that they bumped this in a little bit. I don't know how I do that on my,
I mean, it would be ideal, well, I don't know, we
to
used-
bump it
we
in a
have a
little bit or
requirement,
something
don't we,
right
to-
there. I would agree with you. I think that would break it up as you've made everybody else do in town. I think if you had these bump out here and just like this rendering on 10C, that there was at least a 6-inch bump in reveal so that you break up the character. as
It
you
would
go
break
down.
it up, yeah.
Does 6 inches meet our requirements, or,
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
don't know, do you know that
I
there's
thought it was 6, but
there's a depth for every 200 feet or something, or I thought, or,
Yeah,
Oh, it's a
it-
wonderful mathematics.
And it
the
should go to
regulation
the roof
reads,
line.
no uninterrupted length of any facade shall exceed 200 horizontal feet. Building facades exceeding 200 feet in length measured horizontally shall incorporate wall plane projections or recesses having a depth of at least 2.5% of the width of the entire facade and extending for at least 20% of the length of the facade. Doesn't really help us to sit and figure that out at the table here.
2.5% of the entire
2.5% of 900
width.
feet, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
this
gets
is
to
why
be-
the planning board has waived this specific regulation a number of times. I remember Robert Milligan Parkway came in on this one and showed what that regulation would do.
Yeah,
and
it would
cut
end
a
up being
significant
400
chunk
feet
out of
or
the
something.
building.
It really messes up the inside of the building.
It would be,
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is it, Deidre, or what was the name of the gal that was an architectural person? or something?
Desiree.
Really insistent,
Desiree.
Desiree was really insistent on having that kind of feature in there, and
Yeah, till you do it for a 900-foot building and
That's-
see what it does to
becomes a
the
problem,
inside.
yeah.
I totally agree with that intent, but I think what you're doing here with the roof line parapet totally meets that. So I don't know if it technically meets it, but if you need a waiver to get around that, the difference in the elevation of the roof line, I think, makes a really big difference in the appearance of the building.
does.
And I think that's a
It
big
does,
improvement.
but I'd like to see some kind of relief, even a 6-inch, relief there or whatever would just break it from being a flat wall.
we'd be willing to do that.
So before we go too much farther, I forgot to flag you for accepting the application as complete.
We got too
Sheesh.
far. My apologies. Thank you, Robert.
Blame the
all right,
chair.
We need
So
to have a
moved.
motion. Moved by
Yeah.
Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? 400. The application is accepted as complete. Sorry, we got in the weeds.
Now, can we ask questions?
Now you can ask questions.
I have just a couple for you. Is there any safety requirements or anything that is triggered by the 8% grade coming into the site? That seems pretty steep for trucks over a 200-foot span that goes out into a main highway area.
Oh, so this comes down, just so you see the grade there on the plan here.
There's
It
a
doesn't come
2%
straight
the
off
other
to the
way,
road.
right?
We have to meet the DOT's requirement. So you can see we're going down 2% to a tangent that is
Yep.
easy for me to see here. The PVI station is 100, so we're about 100 feet back. And obviously, we start curving up a little bit, it's about 75 feet. So we made sure we had a landing spot for the vehicles at the end there. And then the other thing is, two things. I had to make sure that, so this is a national company that are looking at these. They look at all those things specifically. I cannot go over 8%. They're good with 8%, but anything over that they would not allow it. So they were
It's a
good with the
no-show.
8%. And it's only 8% from 150 to 224, so it's 75 feet of 8%. And that's, the whole road is 425 feet. So we go to the curves on both sides, so it's a shorter section. Again, I was just trying to balance the cuts and fills. I can't remove material off-site also because.
It's a balance site.
Yeah. So that was kind of the next thing that we had to deal with.
Okay, and there's a single tenant at this point that, for the whole?
I've got weekly meetings with one entity that is telling me at this point it's one, but Don't have
And
to find
it is specifically a warehousing storage facility? There's no chance that it would become light manufacturing or anything like that?
No, not without having to come back here.
Okay. The north side of the site, has the fire department looked at that and approved that? There's no access road for fire trucks, it butts right up to the edge.
I have not gotten a final review from them. We got our review from Fuss and O'Neill the other day, last week. I obtained the 3 sides around the building. That is typically what they were looking for. If they would like something gravel, we can talk about it.
What is the depth of the building there?
285.
Yeah, I would think they'd want
I-
access around that end of that building.
So I do have an email from Jason, the fire marshal, that just says the only thing they're requiring is a BDA analysis. The bidirectional radio signal. That's it.
Oh, that's the internal, if they can hear, okay.
Okay.
I will say that there is one tenant that has spoken about having the access all the way around the building. So I'll have to go to Bedford for that, so that would be one of the reasons, but right now I don't have that proposed.
And then with your EV waiver request, what is the reason why they would not want to do that for their potential employees?
That is my reason that I put out to you that was there. I think I think it's a ask for people that not everybody is using them.
So I don't know that you need a waiver for that.
I thought,
Matt.
yeah, I guess.
Because the language, it does talk about an electric vehicle charging station may be included in the calculation. It
That's
doesn't
what I
say it
thought.
must be or
Yeah.
anything else like that.
So
So
when
I
I saw
think
the
it's an
waiver.
option.
Because 734, I didn't ask for a waiver.
This
right?
way it should be. I was wondering where
Okay.
that got into the regulations when he was saying.
So
I
never
didn't
mind my
remember
waiver,
us
sorry.
voting that
No
in.
waiver, I would,
But okay.
And then your other one was around the sidewalk around the front?
Sidewalk, yeah.
And there's no way to connect that entrance up to the state one and create a kind of a walking loop down the rail trail or anything like that?
so the
I wanna talk
state
about
one is right here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and our property ends about here. This is the guardrail that comes down all the way. There's a guardrail piece all the way on the side here too, because this drops off to the brook. The brook's right there. So you'd have to push it back, encroach in the buffers on the wetlands and do that. So why they, again, this road here goes over and then they tied another pave down to it. I assume that that's why they did it for that use there. I love sidewalks personally. I mean, I just biked around Manchester for their tour last Sunday. We were on sidewalks, we were on bike paths. I do it, but I literally just walked on this road this morning because I dropped my car at Sullivan Tire and had to walk to my office along it. And yeah, and then, it'd be nice if there were sidewalks to walk on. I'm the only person that was doing it, it's kind of, seems interesting, so yes.
So I want to understand better what you're proposing for sidewalks is what's shown in this little sketch here where.
I'm not proposing anything for sidewalks. I'm
No
saying what's
Okay, that's
existing.
an existing.
Yeah, you've
That's
got
an
the existing, yep.
Oh, that's a roadway.
This is the existing rail trail.
Okay,
And then when they did the bridge, they paved a piece of sidewalk here,
yeah,
and then they connected it to this paved walkway
yeah.
that gets you up and over, and then kind of disappears
This
down
is a
in there.
sidewalk on Raymond Wazorek.
Pardon?
There is a sidewalk on the bridge,
On what?
on that roadway.
On the bridge.
On the bridge,
There is
yeah.
a sidewalk.
But now I want to know where the sidewalk goes as it becomes the rail trail or.
It ends right at this, it just ends. As far as I know, it ends. There's no sidewalks on this side over here, and I think they just ended it here.
But you just
Correct.
showed me a trail that came up from the river side.
Oh, this is your rail trail.
Well, you say my rail trail.
Well, it's town.
Yeah,
whoever
we
put it.
don't have a trail. Where does it go from there? That going south?
I believe it goes all the way past Society Hill and keeps going down.
Does it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not necessarily
Yeah.
trail, just the rail bed.
It's a.
No.
wa-
No,
It's a
it should be.
Actual trail?
Yeah.
There's a dirt pathway
Should be a path,
along
yeah.
the
Oh,
rail
okay.
bed. It's just been packed in over years.
Got
A
it.
lot of people run
Maybe
it,
not
walk it.
formalized, but
A lot of people.
so maybe not formalized.
Not
but-
formalized, no.
Where does it end? I didn't know it was there.
I will send something to him on where it ends tomorrow there for you. I don't know exactly where it ends. A
Just-
lot of people use this though. This is one of the things that a lot of people do use for the offices and stuff like that in Bedford and Merrimack along here. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people use
Is
it.
that right? Wow.
It goes to Society Hill for sure, because that's where I go.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. So just for semantic purposes, again, I don't know that you need a waiver on the sidewalks either, because again, the language is the board may
Oh, some-
require, doesn't need to. So again,
So why have we asked for, is it site plans? I mean, is it subdivisions?
subdivision is a definite, and it used to be a definite, but
Oh, that must be
no longer.
Okay. Nelson, man, what's happening here?
I
huh?
don't know. I've been away a few weeks and everything goes to hell. Okay, I have no further questions. Hakeem.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other questions, comments?
No.
Concerns, all right.
Appreciate the narrative. You did a great
Yeah.
job, as usual.
So next is
So-
public comment.
What's that?
Public comment.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I guess I'll open it to public comment. And I will close it for public comment. All right, so first we have to, so based on what you said about the waivers, Robert, do we have to grant?
There's no waiver
We should
action
just
at all.
go to
Not
Yep,
needed.
there's nothing, if the board has no other questions, staff would recommend conditional approval.
Conditional
The
approval?
Fuss and O'Neill review came back as standard. There's no glaring issues on this that would prevent it. So
All right.
if the board's comfortable, then you can conditionally approve.
If the board is comfortable, we're at a point where.
So, so should we ask some of these questions that Robert brings up in his, or Casey brings up in her memo about no parking for trucks except in loading areas? You don't foresee that as any issues?
What's the question?
Says there's no parking for trucks except in the loading areas.
Oh, except, and I was gonna say, I'm definitely parking them in that loading
Well,
area. Okay, they said
except
not
in the loading
areas.
areas, so there's,
Okay, yeah,
there's
yeah.
no holding spaces
Yes.
or anything like
Nope,
that.
Nope, that's why we did the extra ones there, so if they needed to have one without a cab or something, there would be space in the back, yes, nope.
When you were talking traffic, you said there was only like 5 or 6 trucks in the morning?
But that's between the peak hours. Again, a lot of these
Between 8 and 9 or
businesses have
something like
changed
that.
it, exactly, 9 to 10 now, you're seeing, I mean, I see the Urban gas station with all the Amazon trucks and the FedEx trucks at 10 o'clock, and so everybody's staggered their stuff some.
Okay. So you would expect all of these trucks to come and go on a daily basis, or all of these, most of these spots or something, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it'd probably be all of them, and this is not gonna be an RL carrier type place where it's just distribution of that, no. This is a warehouse.
It is more warehousing,
Yes,
so
yes.
it's deliveries and then
Yes.
some takeaways, but
Yes.
not necessarily.
It won't be turned over right
Constant
now,
in and out.
yes, yeah. That one's in Auburn right now, they're trying to get that one approved.
Okay.
Those were only 2?
I guess I have a question, man. How visible will this be from the road, based on the vegetation that's there now?
The fact that you can't see the hill of the house that's out there now, I mean, I don't think you're gonna see a whole, I mean, it depends on what the underbrush down low goes, but this is all wetlands in here that comes through here, and then this is treed here and tree. You're probably gonna see it through the trees. I'm not
It's-
gonna say you're not. I would
Yeah.
assume you're gonna. It's New England. We see stuff through the trees, but again, it's 450 feet off and it's up 20 feet. So where your eye is looking out this direction, you kinda gotta look up, and then it's where's the canopy on the trees. It should be up in those, and instead of being down where the canopies don't have the leaves, it'll
How,
actually be up
how tall is the building?
45 feet.
45 feet?
Yep.
It'll be visible. You'll be able to see it probably, but it's back in the.
It's separate.
I mean,
It's
this,
far
so
away.
you've got this building here that'll block it when you're coming down here, and then their pen that's in front here with their fencing. So, you know, you're not gonna see, and then you get to this point here with your car, you'd probably catch, you know, the last 2 units here, and then come in this direction. This is all the brook and stuff like that, so you'll catch some of it this direction, I believe, yes.
Okay. Okay. Tom, is there any other questions you wanted to ask from your list? No, sir. All right, with that said, is there a motion for a conditional approval?
I don't have the wording in front of me, or I'd do it for you.
I kinda wanted to come back to the next meeting with everybody.
What?
Please tell to
You,
You don't like it
He's
here?
just,
he likes
he's
it here.
preying on my weakness. Or
I'll
mine.
make a motion that, to find with the granted waivers and proposed conditions of approval, the application meets all applicable regulatory requirements necessary, and further to grant conditional final approval to the application subject to the recommended conditions of approval presented in the staff memo dated September 27th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All
And
right,
just noting that there were no granted waivers because they were deemed moot.
understood. All
Can you
right.
just put in your notion there, the 6-foot depth on the building, just so my client knows that that was a condition? You wanted the breakup of the building?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
And if I tell him it's not a
So-
notice of decision, I'll be like, ooh,
6-inch depth
yeah.
in the wall structures.
A minimum of 6, because maybe the architect says
Yeah.
a foot's better, so if we said a minimum of 6.
Robert, does that suffice?
Plus
you
a,
catch that?
yeah, one more time, plus a minimum of 6 feet.
It's a minimum of
6
6
inches.
inch setback every,
For the difference,
every section of the
5
front
sections.
of the building.
Okay, minimum of a 6-inch set,
And it'd be 2 out of the 5 would be setback.
2 of the 5 buildings, wall projections.
Just to break up the flat wall.
So that motion is amended to include a
Sorry, Mark.
offset as requested.
Okay. second,
Understood.
Yes.
All right, motion made by Mark, seconded by Nelson. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, all those abstaining, 400, the motion moves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
All right, last bit.
Robert, I think you left the zip drive for you too, for that other one. I didn't. He left the zip drive in it, but he also said it's on the hard drive. Okay.
All right, this is Planning and Zoning Administrators Report, discussion, possible action regarding other items of concern. Is there anything, Robert, that you need to add to this?
The only thing that I have to mention, and I foresee the board kind of tabling it again, is the Heritage Commission appointment. Since
Yeah, can I make that Bob's responsibility?
4 of you here?
Just want to kick that to Bob.
Just give it to Bob.
I hope the notes show it and he reads it, the minutes show it. I'm kicking that to Bob.
So, yeah, either way, it is something the board
Yeah.
does have to deal with
I'd
when we
ask-
actually get some people here.
Everybody consider it if you're available and you have the bandwidth, please consider it. It is pretty important. All right,
And then
And-
outside of that, just by way of information,
sir.
staff has done a couple of tenant change administrative approvals since the last planning board meeting. Change over at 3 Mound Court to, from Lotus Acupuncture to Face Envy Aesthetics, and change over at 395 Daniel Webster to Edward Jones Financial from Meals on Wheels.
From what?
Meals on Wheels.
I
Meals on Wheels.
didn't understand, Bob.
From Meals on Wheels, so it is
Oh,
now
Meals
Edward
on
Jones
Wheels.
From
Oh.
Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay.
All right, and lastly.
I have one thing for Robert.
Please.
If we could, Bob, I'm not sure how often we follow up on landscaping requirements that we make of builders that go and build, and it's come to my attention that the trees along Daniel Webster Highway in front of the Shaws that's on Daniel Webster Highway are almost all dead. And they were nice-sized trees when they were put in, but there's no leaves on them anymore, and it's too soon for fall. I don't know how often you check those things, or you have some way of going back and saying, look, you know,
Yeah, I think it's something we could follow up with them to send a copy of the plan, because I'm sure whoever's there now has no idea what's even going on, so
yeah,
we can send them the landscape plan and say, hey, look, all your trees are dead, please come out and
thank you,
Please,
yeah,
please
do something
review.
about this in the spring, kind of thing.
thank you.
Excellent. All right, next item, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Somebody else should, because I wasn't here for that meeting, so.
Understood.
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
I guess I can second it, even though I wasn't there.
All right, motion made by Mark and seconded by Nelson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Abstain.
All
I
right.
think I have to abstain.
Okay.
There's no reason that you have to abstain from approval of minutes, so
No.
if you feel that you can vote on them, then you can.
I probably should have read them first. I just got them this afternoon.
All right, so I've got Nelson and Tom abstaining, or you
Approved.
approval? Okay, thank you.
All right, that's 202. All right, and before I adjourn, I want to thank Robert for his guidance tonight, everybody for their patience. I appreciate it. And vote for adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by
And
Tom,
with it,
seconded
I'll
by
thank you
Nelson.
for chairing.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstain, 400. Meeting is adjourned.